Hi there, I just want to do a quick video to show proof of concept for my texture streaming. So what I'm going to show you is how background texture streaming works in AGK Tier 1. Although it is using a DLL that I coded in Tier 2, it is actually quite simple though, and most of the work's done in Tier 1. It's just a little bit of looping that's done in C to make it a bit quicker. So what I'm going to do is just run my 3D game here, and you can see I've got a flag set to use streaming set to off. So I'm just going to run that, and it's going to load up the game as normal. Now what this is doing is loading all texture data at the moment using memblocks, so it's actually a lot quicker than using JPEGs or PNGs or anything like that anyway. But these are, and there's one loaded up, these are completely unoptimized textures. So what I will point out is there's a lot of textures loading in the background that aren't needed for this particular scene that we're looking at, and some of these textures are still 8K and they don't need to be and stuff like that. So actually within this one scene there's somewhere in the region of 500 to 600 megabytes worth of texture data, which is far more than I would need, but once optimized that'll be fixed. In fact, you can see at the top corner there we've got a frame rate of 60 frames per second, and we've got 1.2 gig of texture memory used. But now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quit back out of there and stop the program. I'm going to change this flag to set it to streaming. I'm going to run it again. Now this time all the landscape, paths and all the objects will be untextured, but they will stream in real time as I'm playing the game at 60 frames per second. Now you can control the streaming rate, so the streaming is set to maintain 60 frames per second. And you can see here it's still got 6 frames per second. I'm able to walk about and do everything else I did before, and this time all the textures for objects in the landscape and everything else streamed nicely in the background there. Some stats at the top corner were showing how many textures were streaming and the current percentage that each was finished at. And what I could do is set that lower. I could set it to maintain a minimum of 45 or even 30 frames per second, and if I match that with the sync rate, then obviously the textures are streaming much faster, but you'll get a more jerky user experience. So what this means is it allows me to use much larger textures without having to worry about large textures being loaded for distant objects. I can start to use level of distance, level of detail based on distance to set the level of texture that's loaded in, and when certain objects get closer to the player, stream in a bigger texture, just like professional games do. So there you go, texture streaming in real time with very little frame rate hit, AGK Tier 1.